Have you ever looked up at the moon and marveled at the fact that humans have actually walked on its surface? The Apollo missions, the giant leap for mankind. It's one of America's proudest moments. But what if I told you that the mastermind behind the rocket that took us there had a dark, hidden past, working for the Third Reich? This is the incredible and controversial story of how Nazi scientists built the American space program. Our story begins in the final, chaotic days of World War II. As Allied forces closed in on Germany, a frantic, top-secret race was underway. It wasn't just for territory. It was for Germany's scientific minds. The United States, realizing the immense value of German rocket technology, launched a covert mission called Operation Paperclip. The goal, to recruit Germany's top scientists and engineers, get them to America, and keep them out of Soviet hands. At the very top of their list was a charismatic, brilliant rocketeer named Werner Boone Braun. During the war, von Braun was the technical director of the Peenemünde Army Research Center. He was also the creative genius behind the V-2 rocket, the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile. These were terrifying weapons, launched against Allied cities like London and Antwerp, causing thousands of civilian deaths. What's even more disturbing is that these rockets were built using forced labor from concentration camps, where conditions were brutal and countless prisoners died from starvation, disease, and execution. Despite this horrific history, the US government saw von Braun and his team not as war criminals, but as a strategic asset. The Cold War was dawning, and the race against the Soviet Union for technological supremacy had begun. So, in 1945, von Braun and Ober, 100 of his key personnel surrendered to the Americans. Their Nazi pasts were sanitized, their records scrubbed, and they were secretly brought to the United States. They were initially set up at Fort Bliss, Texas, and later moved to the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. For the first few years, their work was relatively quiet. They helped the US Army develop its own ballistic missiles, essentially refining the V-2 technology they had brought with them. But everything changed on October 4th, 1957. The Soviet Union stunned the world by launching Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. The space race was officially on, and America was losing. Panic set in. The US had been trying to launch its own satellite with a different team, but their Vanguard rocket failed spectacularly on the launch pad. In this moment of national crisis, America turned to Werner von Braun. His team was given the green light. Just a few months later, on January 31st, 1958, their Juno I rocket, a direct descendant of the V-2, successfully launched America's first satellite, Explorer 1, into orbit. Werner von Braun, the former Nazi scientist, was now an American hero. He appeared on the cover of Time magazine and even starred in popular Disney television specials, charmingly explaining the future of space exploration to millions of Americans. His star rose even higher with the creation of NASA in 1958. Von Braun's team became the core of the new Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, and he was appointed its first director. His mission was monumental: to build the rocket that would take humans to the moon. This rocket was the Saturn V, standing taller than a 36-story building. It remains the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown. It was a masterpiece of engineering, a symphony of millions of intricate parts, all working in perfect harmony. And it was von Braun's vision, brought to life by him and his German team, working alongside a new generation of American engineers. On July 16, 1969, a Saturn V rocket thundered off the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center, carrying Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins on the Apollo 11 mission. 4 days later, the world held its breath as Armstrong took that one small step. In the control room, Werner von Braun watched, his dream realized. The man who had once built weapons of terror had now enabled one of humanity's greatest achievements. But this triumph comes with a heavy, complicated legacy. How do we reconcile the genius of the Saturn V with the horror of the V? The US government made a pragmatic, some would say cynical, choice. They prioritized winning the Cold War over holding these men accountable for their past. For decades, the role of forced labor in the V-2 program and the Nazi affiliations of these scientists were largely downplayed or ignored in the public narrative. It's a classic moral dilemma. and the ends justify the means. Does a great achievement wash away a dark past? There are no easy answers. The story of Operation Paperclip forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about science, war, and national ambition. It shows that history is rarely a simple story of good versus evil. Often, it's a messy, morally gray landscape where heroes and villains are not so easily defined. The Apollo program is a shining symbol of human potential, but it was built upon a foundation that carries the dark shadow of a painful and troubling past. Thank you so much for watching. This is a complex topic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of history. See you next time.